people thought when I would tell them there's this nationwide pedophile network that is for very powerful people that's connected to the CIA, people just didn't want to hear that at that point. And I would be pitching editors and publishers, and I'd be looking straight at them. And then I would tell them about this story, and I could see the cognitive dissonance occur before my very eyes. They would think to themselves, this is really a horrible story.
You're saying there was ties with the CIA to the Franklin scandal.
Yes.
I've heard you talk about Bush. I've heard you talk about Warren Buffett's wife was working at that credit union.
No,
she
provided money.
She provided money, yes.
To the credit union.
So what is the ties to CIA and Buffett?
I didn't find any ties to CIA and Buffett, but there's definitely CIAs to Craig Spence, and he was definitely a CIA asset. And he was the second pimp who was in Washington, D.C. And I managed to acquire like 200 flight logs, like with Epstein, with the Franklin scandal. And most of them went to Washington, D.C. And that's where the party house was.
And Craig Spence was a powerhouse, a lobbyist, D.C., somebody that a lot of the folks in D.C. respected. So it wasn't like he was a lightweight guy. Yeah, right there. Spence registered with the U.S. State Department as a foreign agent for Japan and began lobbying for Japanese interests. So he's got a very interesting background.
With both King and Spence, now this is my surmise, both King and Spence came from relatively lower socioeconomic backgrounds. And King was sent to Thailand during the Vietnam War and given top security clearances. And Spence was also in Southeast Asia reporting as an ABC reporter. And now they both had kind of mediocre careers prior to Southeast Asia, but after Southeast Asia, it's like they come back to the US and like their careers just rocket. And my surmise on this is that King and Spence were, they're inveterate pedophiles. That King and Spence were probably busted molesting kids in Southeast Asia. And then at that point, they were turned by some dark, malignant corner of our government that perpetrates things like Franklin and also perpetrates things like Epstein.
Yeah, and he was apparently giving late night White House tours to boys and taking them in there and some very dark stuff. And I think this guy ended up dying from suicide of the what I don't know whether it was alcohol or drug. He committed suicide in the wake of Washington Times expose on his involvement with a prostitution ring and blackmail. Yeah, so dark guy on what he ended up doing.
Well, his suicide was kind of interesting. He was at the Ritz-Carlton, dressed up in a tuxedo, and he took an overdose, I believe, of nortriptyline, the antidepressant, but he had a number of notes that were scrawled out, and then he had a newspaper article that was found right next to him, and it was about CIA assets or agents that were forced to testify, and because there was a grand jury that was gunning for him at that point. I don't know. That grand jury is very corrupt. I don't know, but I think that with Craig Spence was a lot like Jeffrey Epstein.
Was Craig Spence more like Jeffrey Epstein or Lawrence King?
I would say that Craig Spence was more like
In
Jeffrey
what
Epstein.
ways?
He had the connections. He had the power. I would say that Ghislaine Maxwell was analogous to Larry King. As far as Ghislaine Maxwell built the machine that enabled Jeffrey Epstein to get kids, and Lawrence King built the machine that enabled Craig Spence to get kids.
Is there a link between Craig Spence and Epstein? Did they ever meet each other or no?
No. What's interesting there's one link that I know of. William Barr was the Attorney General under Bush 1 that covered up Franklin. And then he was also the Attorney General under Trump's first administration, and he covered up Epstein. So William Barr is a cover-up guy, and he's been with the CIA forever. And it's even on his Wikipedia page that he was in the CIA at a very young age.
No, I mean, you see, didn't he and Epstein actually go to school together, or they were at a summer camp together? There was some kind of a picture from them when they were kids. So I was given a picture of Jeffrey Epstein at Interlochen summer camp. Right.
And I was given a picture of someone that looked exactly like Donald Barr, who was also attending Interlochen summer camp.
Did it end up being him or no?
My source said it was, but then Interlochen said it wasn't.
This picture right here?
Yes, that's the picture. Now, that looks a lot like William Barr. But my source says it was, and Interlochen says it wasn't. So that's a wash.
Okay, so outside of the fact that the cover-up is tied to one name, which is Barr, that kind of worked on both cases together, there is no other direct affiliation or connection with not even Ghislaine to her father, Robert Maxwell, that's tied to Craig Spence. There's no ties.
I haven't found any, no.
Okay. All right, so let's bring it up to today with Epstein. You know, these stories have become more and more. You have the Diddy scandal that just got finalized. You got the Epstein one that's going up, that they have a press conference on September 3rd. You have the recording that was dropped, the 6 hours of recording that was dropped, the interview that they did with, is it Todd Blanche? I want to say his name correctly. Todd Blanche spent 6 hours with Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is July 24th or 25th. That was just dropped a few days ago. Have you had a chance to listen to the recording and see what was said? Was there any new things you heard in there that you hadn't known before?
Well, this is kind of interesting because someone called me before it came out and said, we're going to get it and we want you to read it. But the Department of Justice reneged. And so I had to read it and when it came out with everything.
The person that called you, I don't need names, but the person that called you, are they in right now? Are they working for the government right now? Or are they an outsider?
They're an outsider with a lot of juice.
Somebody we would know or not?
Yes,
somebody
yes.
We would know this person.
Yeah, you would know.
Okay, so this person has a connection with the insider that they wanted to give that to you, but they didn't.
Well, the transcripts were going to be given to him, and he wanted me to read them to see, because he knows about my expertise in this area. So, but they reneged. The Department of Justice, it's like with everything the Department of Justice does with Jeffrey Epstein. It reneges on its promises.
Why do you think they did that? What's your speculation?
I have no idea. Why they reneged in this particular instance. I don't know.
Did you have a chance to go through it and hear what things she had to say?
Well, I did. I mean, there wasn't really a lot.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything new.
I mean, she exonerated Donald Trump. And actually, she had told a former CBS 60 Minutes producer that Epstein had blackmail material on both Clinton and Trump. But in this, I mean, it wouldn't be difficult. There would be a lot of, it would be very advantageous for her. Now, I'm not saying Donald Trump is, I'm not saying he isn't, but it would be very advantageous for her to exonerate Donald Trump because she gets moved to a cush prison and hopefully she doesn't get a pardon. I mean, I'm really hoping that she does not get a pardon.
You think she will?
I hope not. She led a lot of lambs to the slaughter, and she's a vile, evil woman. So I really hope she doesn't get a pardon.
Got it.
Hi, I'm Nick Bryant, and if you want to connect with me on Connect. You can ask me about Epstein justice and also all things Epstein.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.